Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the House of Nostalgia. Today's feature is on the legendary Mr. Isaac Hayes. You asked for a feature on him, and here it is. He was an entertainer, a songwriter, actor, producer, composer, an Oscar winner, a 5-time Grammy Award winner, an author, a Hall of Fame inductee. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame along with Mr. David Porter, and he was a businessman. Another important thing about him is that he was one of the first black entertainers that I know of to perform in costumes, which consisted of chains, robes, scarves, leggings, sandals, and dashikis. He also made having a bald head sexy, and the women that he dated or was photographed with sported bald heads too. Isaac Hayes Jr. was born in Covington, Tennessee in 1948. He was raised by his grandparents following the death of his mother and being abandoned by his father. Hayes, speaking on his childhood, said, and I quote, "It was my 10th birthday, and my grandmother whipped me for good luck. I got no presents, no cake, no nothing. Just a whooping, and that hurt me. I was broke and hungry. That just tore me up," end quote. He sang in the church choir, and he dropped out of high school, but later returned and graduated with a high school diploma. He quit to work odd jobs, even picking cotton during season to help make money for his family. By this time, he had already taught himself to play the piano, organ, flute, and the saxophone. He started performing in a few local groups in Memphis, Tennessee, before doing early methods of audio recording with local record labels in 1962. In 1964, he began playing the saxophone with the Marquis, and this is around the time that he formed a working relationship with Stax Records, which was established in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, when he started working with the house band at Stax, he went from playing the sax for the Marquis to playing the piano, and that's the instrument that a lot of people associate him with. Now, I vaguely remember him playing the flute. I believe it was on Don Kushner's rock concert, maybe. And I'm pretty sure he performed playing all of his instruments, but he's well known for playing the piano. Now, around this time, him and David Porter come together and formed a successful writing partnership. David Porter was also a recording artist, and I remember him having a memorable album cover called Victim of the Joke, where he was dressed as a clown. I remember seeing this album in our home. Now, both of them writing and composing together was amazing. They wrote a lot of songs, and they were a hit-making machine. They wrote hits for Carla Thomas, Johnny Taylor, Booker T. Jones, Ruby Johnson, and Billy Eckstine. I had no idea that they wrote for Sam and Dave. I didn't know that they wrote Sam and Dave's biggest hits. Hold On, I'm Coming, When Something Is Wrong with My Baby, and the biggest hit of them all, Soul Man. Sam and Dave were able to become rich men just performing those 3 songs. Hayes recorded his first album with Stax Records in 1967. The album wasn't on the soul scale, so to speak. It was more of a jazz feel, and his dress attire was the basic suit and tie. But once he recorded Hot Buttered Soul in 1969, Hayes' recording career took off with hits like Walk On By and By the Time I Get to Phoenix. This was during the time that he changed his dress attire. Hayes had a lot going on in 1970. He released the Isaac Hayes Movement album, which produced one of my favorite songs off that album, I Stand Accused, and the album To Be Continued. He was approached to write the score for the movie Shaft, which was directed by Gordon Parks in 1972. Now, a fun fact is that Gordon Parks Jr. directed the movie Superfly that following year. Hayes' album won an Oscar for Best Song from a Movie Soundtrack, along with 3 Grammy Awards and a Golden Globe Award. He was the first Afro-American to win the Oscar in that category. Hayes had reached the height of his career at 31 years of age and stayed there for many years. This win kicked down the doors for other artists like Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway, and James Brown to have the opportunity to produce soundtracks for movies. The Black Moses album, which was sort of his musical opus, was released in 1971, and he won a Grammy. Now, the fold-out of this album was in the shape of a cross, with him standing in the middle. This album was in our home, and I remember staring at this as a child. I wouldn't be surprised if that particular album cover would be worth money today, and I found out later that they quit making that album cover like that. The 1973 album Joy only had 5 songs, but that was common in the early 70s. The title track was almost 16 minutes long. Around 1973, Hayes started acting. He first appeared in a documentary called Save the Children, and in the 1974 movie 3 Tough Guys. He was the leading man in the 1974 movie Truck Turner. When it comes to acting, Hayes was considered a natural who didn't start off with acting lessons. I'm not sure if he decided to take any form of training later in his acting career, but he was pretty good. He also appeared in the Rockford Files around the mid-70s. Hayes cut ties with Stax Records in 1975 due to monetary issues and formed his own label, Hot Buttered Soul. He continued on with his music, pushing forward with the 1975 Chocolate Chip album and the Disco Connection album and the 1976 Groovathon album. Now, around this time, rap and disco was picking up steam in the clubs and on the radio. So Hayes' music was not selling like before, and he eventually had to deal with some serious financial issues, which he later was able to overcome. In 1978, Hayes' For Sake of Love album had the hit song Zeke the Freak. I don't know if this album or single sold a lot of copies, but it was very popular and I remember it being played on Soul Train a lot. He also did a disco version of the Shaft theme song on that album. The 1979 title track song Don't Let Go was a hit dance track. The song was written by Jesse Stone. Now, he did 2 duo albums, A Man and a Woman with Dionne Warwick in 1977, and a fun fact about that is that he co-wrote Dionne's Grammy award-winning song Deja Vu in 1979. And he did the classic Rapping Royal album with Millie Jackson in 1979. Hayes retired from recording in 1995. He had recorded 28 albums, and the album Branded was the last album he recorded for that year. He starred and appeared in numerous movies and television shows. One of my favorite movies he starred in was 1981's Escape from New York. The younger generation was introduced to Hayes by him supplying the voice of the character Chef, appearing in the highly popular South Park series. He played the character from 1997 until he quit in 2005. Now, Hayes was a Scientologist, and it was rumored that he quit because of a skit making fun of Scientology and other religious beliefs. I really feel that he got tired of being asked the question, why did he quit? So in a 2007 interview, Hayes mentioned he quit because, quote, they, which was Parker and Stone, didn't pay me enough. They weren't that nice, end quote. Hayes also worked as a composer and arranger on Alicia Keys' first album, Songs in A Minor. He was the owner of Isaac Hayes Restaurant and Nightclub in downtown Memphis for many years. Hayes passed away in 2008 at the age of 65. In the early 70s, he was also known as the Sultan of Sound and Black Moses. A lot of people from that time would remember that. Although he didn't like that birthday whipping his grandma gave him, he stated that once he started making money, he bought his grandmother a home and will never forget the way her eyes sparkled. He was a philanthropist who truly believed in helping low-income people. He never forgot the poverty that he endured in his young life. That was the driving force in him becoming such a tremendous success. Thank you guys for suggesting that I do a video on Mr. Isaac Hayes. This video was a true learning experience. And as always, thanks for watching.